Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Central Region Town Hall. The time is 6:02 p.m. And call to order, roll call. Becky Schwinger, present. Austin Pratt.
Present.
Atlas Pearson.
Here.
John Carlson. There he is. All right. Here. And then I believe we have Jacob Blue, our new member, is online. So welcome, Jacob. All right, so for our consent agenda, item number 2, we need the approval for our March 10 regular meeting minutes. You guys have any corrections? Is that your computer?
I don't know.
Anybody have any corrections?
Move approval.
No? Okay. Need a second?
I'll second your approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, item number 3, discussion and possible action, including acceptance of an update from Lars Ewing, Public Services Director, and the DWR regarding Alpine Park cleanup, swim area cleanup, and Thule brush cleanup. And I do not see Lars present. Is he online by any chance?
I do not see him.
Okay, then we'll probably have to move that to next month's agenda and see, maybe Lars had something come up. All right, item number 4, discussion and possible action, including acceptance of a presentation from John Spica, Senior Transportation Planner, regarding the Lake Area Planning Council's update of the Regional Transportation Plan.
Hi, can you hear me? Sort of, yeah, a little distorted. Okay. Hi, my name's John Spica, and I'm with the Lake Area Planning Council. Thanks to the board for having me today to talk about our regional transportation plan and active transportation plan update. I'll explain what both the Lake Area Planning Council is and does, as well as what the plan is. Essentially, we are a transportation planning. We are the regional transportation planning agency for the Lake County region. We have a board that's made up of local decision makers. So there's 2 county supervisors, 2 council members from each of the 2 cities, and 2 at-large members that make up our board. We also have a couple advisory bodies, one being the Technical Advisory Committee, and that's made up of public agency officials, for instance, Public Works and Community Development from each of the jurisdictions. We also have a Social Services Transportation Advisory Council, and that focuses mainly on transit and getting seniors and disabled from point A to point B. That's sort of their focus. And then there's a couple other things that the Lake Area Planning Council does, such as we administer the Call Walks program, the roadside phone along Highway 20 or some of the other highway areas. Also, the APC board serves as the board of the Lake Transit Authority. And so what the Lake Area Planning Council does is we're sort of in between the state level and the local level. We allocate funding from the higher levels so the state gets money for transportation. We are kind of involved in distributing it to the local jurisdictions within this region. It just happens to be the Lake County region. These agencies, these Lake Area Planning Councils, the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, they exist all throughout the state, and they do the same thing. So we work closely with Caltrans, and we work closely with the local agencies to get funding for transportation projects, whether they're grants or just funding that comes down from the state. We also prepare planning documents. We are a planning agency primarily, and so we prepare plenty of transportation type planning documents. The main one being our regional transportation plan, which is a 20-year planning document that includes all sorts of transportation modes. So when people think transportation, they typically think roads and highways, which is obviously the biggest way to get from point A to point B, but it's everything else that gets you there. So there's pedestrian facilities, sidewalks, there's crossings, there's bike lanes, public transit, even aviation, although it's not a major source in Lake County, but there is Lamson Field, so that we do cover that as well. The idea from the plan is to promote a safe and efficient transportation system for the movement of people and goods. So again, getting people where they need to be and getting everyday goods to the region. And the plan itself includes the variety of transportation modes that I just talked about, including the pedestrian, the bicycle, etc. Now, the non-motorized types of transportation are what we refer to as active transportation. So this active transportation plan is also a key component of our plan. It's sort of a standalone document, and it's also incorporated in the plan, so that's why there's a separate focus on it here. But it looks at bicycle and pedestrian networks throughout the county, and it came down from a state program called the Active Transportation Program. Maybe about 10 years ago, they started kind of with all the bicycle and pedestrian type funding sources all kind of came together into this one active transportation program. Now this plan itself, it goes a long way in getting these projects funded. Oftentimes you'll find the projects within the active transportation plan, and then we could apply for funding from the state source of the active transportation program. Anyway, kind of a convoluted way to say that this is sort of our non-motorized component of the transportation, the regional transportation plan. Now, as I said, the plan itself looks at needs and priorities for the county when it comes to any types of transportation. We get all the projects that come through this plan from local officials, locals and state agencies, tribal governments, and the public. So that's sort of the whole purpose why I'm here, is I'm kind of doing a road show around the county to different town halls, different school boards, different local gatherings to try to get the word out that we're putting this together, and we're trying to solicit feedback as much as possible. I'll explain how to do that in a second. But we come up with a list of projects for all the modes of transportation. Obviously, not every single one could be funded that easily because there's a budget constraints. I mean, that's always the name of the game in these. So our role is typically finding the funding to implement what we can, or help the local agencies implement what they can. So where we're at with our plan is to, the outreach is going on through the spring. That's me here tonight. We're gonna, towards the summertime, we'll start to kind of sort through all the comments we've gotten and see what these priorities and needs are that we come up with. We'll come up with some draft plan in the late summer and fall, and then we'll have a draft available for our board and for the public to review. We're shooting for February 26th, which will be the 4-year update. As I said, it's a 20-year plan. It gets updated every 4 years. The last time it was updated was 2022, February 2022. And that's what I'm here to talk about. So we want to hear from the public. We want your comments known. And here is how to do it. I've got a QR code, and I have some ways to contact me. I also have a bunch of flyers that I could leave with the QR code and with all the email addresses, and I got business cards and that sort of thing. So I would be happy to just leave a stack here for anyone who might want to grab one on the way out, and go to our website. There is some surveys to take. There are some an interactive mapping tool that you could kind of drop a pin and explain what issue you're most concerned with. Say it's like an intersection that you find problematic or lack of a sidewalk in a certain area. You could drop the pin on the map and kind of give us a few kind of sentences of what you're looking for as an improvement. And that's the type of stuff that we're going to try to incorporate into our plan. And like I said, once the stuff is in the plan, it's not a guarantee that it's going to be implemented tomorrow, but it is the first step in trying to get funding for these things. So we, a lot of times the state or federal funding sources will say, well, have you had a public outreach component to this project that you're interested in? How did you develop this idea? It's like, well, it's in our it's in our regional transportation plan, and it came through public outreach and public solicitation. So it goes a long way in grant funding and other funding sources. And that's sort of the long and short of it. Just a brief presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions that the board or public might have.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody out there have any questions?
Yes. Oh.
Thanks, John. How is the federal cuts affecting your grant funding situation?
That's a great question, and we don't know yet. We did have a grant through the feds that we received in late 2023. It was a program called Safe Streets and Roads for All, and we were going to develop local road safety plans for the 3 jurisdictions. We had to develop a grant agreement that we're still waiting to hear back from. So it's not necessarily the new administration, although they might have completely different goals and priorities. But it took forever for the last, administration to get back to us. At this point, we might start looking for other funding sources to get that dealt with, because we just don't know what the climate is right now for those grants to come through. We were awarded the grant, and it's still possible that it might come through. But like I said, we will start looking for new sources as well. Sure.
Anyone else? Is there anybody online with a question? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh, one more? Oh. Who?
Do you have any words on the current work that's going on, primarily Highway 20 through town in Nice, Lucerne and Nice? Caltrans has been out there surveying for 2 or 3 weeks. They're up to their eyeballs and marking stuff. And don't know what that's all about. If you do, shed some light, please.
Caltrans has been working on Highway 20 improvements for, there's a program they have that's, I know the acronym and I don't know what all the letters stand for, but it's a safety and operations kind of silo of funding for that they work on their own roads. And Lucerne especially has some funding in there to improve the sidewalks and bike lanes and crossings. Now, there's a longer version, kind of a longer range version for that, which is going to start up in about 2 years, I believe, where they're going to really start kind of focusing on improving the bike lanes and the curb cuts and maybe bulb outs and that sort of thing. But there's also a short range component where they're working on kind of lower hanging fruit that's easier to implement, such as safer crossings and that sort of thing. Some of those flashing beacons that you see, that's sort of the easier kind of quick fix type of thing that they're working on. I also know that they're working in Nice and Clear Lake Oaks on several of the same types of safety crossings and that sort of thing. And I think they're a couple years behind Lucerne when it comes to the more major improvements that they're looking at. And most of that's going to focus on pedestrian and bicycle safety.
Anyone else? All right, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank
for
you.
coming. All right. And you're gonna leave some handouts? All right, thank you. Or you could put them on the table, so, yeah, one of the tables, and people could grab them. Thank you. All right. Item number 5, discussion and possible action, including acceptance of a presentation from Glenn March, Public Works Director, regarding transportation concerns in future projects. And he's not online. There's nobody else online, Thomas?
I got Jacob Blue, Holly, and myself.
Basically, he was the third-party contractor for the same project.
Oh, I think, okay.
They
But,
both reached out and we threw them both on to be safe.
yeah, we weren't sure.
It was a
Oh.
redundant invite. We had added a secondary agenda item to give Mr. Speaka a trial and then Mr. Glenn March as well to speak, but I believe it's on the same day. So, yeah.
Glenn might have had some specific kind of county projects, but I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the email that I tagged you all in. That was, he wanted to set up a meeting with all the Macs to talk about the projects he's gonna be working on. And so I don't know.
I don't know if that is that microphone on?
How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that when I connected you all, I thought that, you would schedule that. I didn't know if when I seen him on this one, I was like, I thought he said May, but, either way, keep him on, because I was looking for him when I first came in, because I seen him on the agenda. But he does want to come before you. It's not about that. It's about the other grants and whatnot he's applied for. I know that he mentioned the same thing. I'm glad you mentioned the streets. Because that is the work they're going to be doing. Is one of the biggest complaints is the middle crossing. How people use, so they're looking to strategize that to where you only turn in specific areas, so there's no room for anybody to do that middle crossing. But that's part of what you're talking about with Caltrans, and also the beacons. That's the short term. The long term is that Lucerne project, and I think that's also this Lucerne Safe Streets project that they're working on. But yeah, so Glenn also, maybe should I just give what I know that he talked to me about? Because I've been meeting with him pretty frequently about a lot of the things, or do you just want me to wait?
Wherever you want to do it, it just, I think maybe there was some miscommunication with the email, so.
Yeah, well, I wanted to make sure. 'Cause
Misunderstanding, I should say.
he only emailed you, and so I
Yes.
was like, right away, I sent it to all of you all to make sure, so that way you can connect with him.
And I think we got it the same day I had to get the agenda out, so we
Okay.
just kind of threw it on there and we're like, if it sticks,
Yeah.
great. If not,
Yeah.
we'll bring
But
it back.
he does definitely want to come. I told him I would like him to, because I can't enunciate the same things he is when it comes to this. He also has, he spoke to the plans about the bridge.
Foothill Bridge?
Yes, the bridges, and so basically he's stated that he's he's got a grant for it. He's got some grant writers already in place. Like, there's been quite a few that have applied, so that's something that's being worked on. I also went out by it to check, because I remember there was worry that there was a blind spot with the oleanders.
On Robin Hood.
Right, yes, and so, not sure if they cut it yet, but we did report that to them. That was one of the things too, so yeah, he is actively working on that, but it hasn't happened yet, but I know that when he gets here next month, he should have some more. But I've been also working on the different areas that we want to have for the roads in Lucerne, Nice, Upper Lake, and Clear Lake Oaks, and so that's what I've been really trying to strategize. The other thing, I remember we were talking about last meeting that on the agenda there was going to be some work done on Rodman Slough. I pulled last week off the consent agenda the design review, and if I could just read that to you real quick, because it was one of the things that caught my attention was in the executive summary. It stated on October 26, 2021, the County of Lake and NCE entered, which is I'll find the name, but NCE entered into a general services agreement for general engineering services to do planning studies, soil studies, pavement evaluations, evaluation studies, topography surveys, engineering, design and development of plans and specifications. And so in 23, there was agreement number 2, and so now this is agreement number 3 that they've picked up on and is going to be worked on when it comes to that part of the road. So it's also with Rodman Slough, but also in this agreement was Bottle Rock Road. They mentioned they were talking about to work on this cutoff, to get the cutoff work done. So just wanted to emphasize that because I know last meeting I talked about it, and just wanted to make sure that I pulled it off so that people can see that it's actively being worked on. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So we'll invite him next month. Make sure we get that clear. And I don't see a representative from Caltrans, right? Item number 6, discussion and possible action, including acceptance of an update from Caltrans regarding potential projects. I can't remember, I have to look at my notes, who we were supposed to invite, but in case that happened, we wanted to put it on the agenda, so.
Could you pull your mic just a little, or just point it down a little bit?
Is that better?
Manny Machado, because I reached out to him for you all and for the North Shore Business Association because they want to see they want to talk about all the projects. So I'm not sure where that went either, but I know at least you guys have Glenn's information. At least that went through and all that's going. But I know with Manny, I've been on him trying to get him to come to the North Shore Business. I have one of the presidents from North Shore Business, like, did he confirm yet? Did he confirm yet? I'm like, hey, are you sending someone yet? Yeah, we have 2 people. I'm like, again, today.
Yeah, that's why I had asked you about it too, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll try next month for that. And then item number 7, discussion and possible action, including an update regarding potential joint MAC meeting. I don't know if there's been, I haven't received any correspondence regarding any traction on that. Does anybody else have any information?
I do know they brought it up at their last Worth, and I think it is due for discussion at this Wednesday's Worth as well. But yeah, as far as like the next action on it, I have not heard.
Okay,
besides.
I'll try and reach out to,
Angela Amaral from Earth.
Right.
And so I wanted to give you guys an update. Yep, it is on Worth's agenda for this Wednesday. And Holly Harris and myself are going to be going there. So we would like to get 2 people from each one to discuss it, and if we want to proceed with it. So if you guys are on board with it, that's what we're looking for, is to have conversations with 2 people from each one.
so this is Wednesday, the 16th?
The 16th, let me see if I have the time, is that me?
No, I need you to stand closer.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Okay, 5:30? Okay, yeah, so 5:30 on Wednesday, and then Holly and myself are gonna be there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And where's the location for that one?
Main Street, you're talking about for Upper Lake?
Yeah.
Main Street, it's Abematolel's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have them a total.
And we can email you guys the information too, if you
Okay.
need us to.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Okay, item number 8, discussion and action, possible action regarding flood control mitigation for Victoria Creek. I don't know if you have an update on that?
No, I submitted the paperwork that was given to me by Jim, and that's the, I wanted to make sure that you can talk with Glenn about how we can work that out. Because it's a standing document from Wilcox. And so I want to make sure, one of the things I'm worried about is like them trying to say, well, that was how long ago, right? You know,
Yeah, it was probably 1982.
right. But either way, the fact that you have it, you know. The concern is that we brought things before like that. I know on my end when I brought it to, not Glenn, but when I brought it to county council and they said, well, you know, some of these things, you know, sunset or whatever, so I want to make sure, yeah, right,
You're gonna flood people out if you don't take care of it.
yeah, yeah. So,
Okay, so it's moving forward.
well,
I mean,
county council, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, at least the paperwork's been submitted.
Right,
so-
there's been a couple others I'm working on. For example, at Upper Lake, there's a situation with one of the bridges and who owns a specific easement when it comes to a pipe and things like that, and it's documented the same way that yours is documented, but then there's reluctancy. And so before just having a straight no, that's why I brought it to county council, because I want to make sure and have them look at it from a different lens. That same situation in Spring Valley, there's a document that has preceding paperwork and preceding statements that say the date and the outstanding timeframe. But what happened is Special Districts brought it to county council. County council's like, well, this is what it says, because it was brought to them that way. When I explained the questions and the history of it, then they're looking at it from a different perspective. So that's my goal with this, just like with Upper Lake and the CSA and then this Victoria Creek situation.
All right,
Yeah.
well, thank you. Well,
Mhm.
we can.
Might as well stay here.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any comments regarding item number 8? All right. Item number 9, discussion and possible action, including acceptance of an update from Supervisor Crandall.
So I know one thing, last meeting, there was some concerns about a couple of things. One, I want to say, I don't know if it was Davis Park. I know Davis Park was why we wanted Lars to be here, and he obviously is not here. Was he on Zoom I know that when I came in, okay. So there's the concerns about that, but then there were statements about the other side, the first ribs, I guess they call it.
Alpine.
Right.
Alpine Park, the swim area there.
Well, not the Alpine here. I'm talking about over, so the Rock, Davis, then there's the
yes.
other side.
Yes.
There's
second
people
floor.
doing work on that. That's private work. That's the residents that live there apparently are who worked on that. And it's not a county, it wasn't the county, it was the people that own the properties.
Are you talking about on the lakeside?
Yes.
And was that authorized? I'd seen them with an excavator and that, and I
No,
was surprised.
I didn't ask if it was authorized. I just tried to find out if it was done and who did it, we went over and asked that. I mean, if that's where the goal is to ask if it's authorized, I can do that too.
Oh, no, I just was curious. I
Yeah.
saw them operating and then a short time after, because they were in where the kind of turnout is
Mm-hmm.
there. And then CHP came and, wasn't too long after that they left, so I didn't know whether.
Maybe
it
they
was
got shut
the
down.
State, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and then Alpine Park, I know that there was concerns again about, there was a couple of things. I know there was a mention about tule removal or something like that. I don't think Water Resources removes tules because of,
I think it's more than tules. I think it's like actual brush and new tree growth that's popping up.
Oh,
In the
Okay.
actual swim area,
Yeah.
not the area in front of the.
so not the tules, but the brush.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
an overgrowth into what formerly has been a swim area that's
Mm-hmm.
even kind of roped off with old floaties. Yeah, it's tules as well, but it is other plants and it's,
Right.
yeah, so
Right.
it is an overgrowth problem. I think it's just east of the large pier, the long.
Yeah, now I know what part you're talking about. I know that commonly there's not a real goal to remove tules, but I mean, yeah. But the other brush, that has to be, of course, that's on Water Resources purview to do that. But it needs to be done in a lot of areas on the shoreline. I know it's on one of the shoreline goals. I've seen a couple of projects that have been worked on with that. Yeah, so I don't have a real update on that, except for I know that I was listening from the last meeting and it was tules, so I was like, they don't commonly remove tules, but, yeah. Let's see, since last meeting, I know that we also were talking about things on the agenda and whatnot. I know there was, you probably remember we were doing those dump days. 150 tons of garbage from both Nice dump days. I don't think it was solely for just Nice. I know other people probably brought some stuff, but hey, more power to the situation. Lucerne is supposed to ramp up towards the end of April and part of May. So it will be at the castle. They've been talking with the folks at the castle to coordinate that as well. So that Cal Recycle grant will be in place for that to happen again. So, so yeah, that will be moving forward as well. So be looking out for those flyers and for it to be on the website and whatnot. Not water resources, I'm sorry, community development is where I'm working on that, so.
Any traction on the universal trash pickup?
Yes, I know that was, I wish Lars was here too, because he actually had talked to me about some discussions, because I know he had spoken with folks at Earth or heard them talking about it in one of the last meetings. And I remember last month I was like, well, I don't know, he's pretty reluctant, but apparently now the pilot is likely to be rolled out for at least one area to start looking into doing that, because yeah, I was surprised, because usually he's always like a proponent of not doing it. So yeah, so when we have him here, I think we should split both the parks and the garbage, but I think we need to schedule, like, we need to figure out who, you know what I mean? That's 3 people. I know that'll be a pretty long meeting, but if you want to have all 3, I think they can do so. I just know that there'll be questions here, you know, from the public, especially considering that Glenn conducts, we're going to have to talk about the bridges and the Victoria Creek, and also, so yeah, I think just prioritize which one you think you would like to go with first. I think you can cover 2 in one week. You just gotta, yeah. So I think that we'll figure out which ones to do.
All right. Anything else?
I'm just going to take questions, because I know that I can go on about things, and a lot of times it's going to be things they don't really want to hear about. You know, like, I mean, with the Potter Valley Dam, we went to a meeting last month over in Cloverdale, spoke with the mayor of Cloverdale, asked us to go out and talk about our experience with the situation with the 2-basin solution, Potter Valley Dam, Lake Pillsbury. It was really well received. It was really hard on some of the elected officials in Sonoma, but it felt good to be in a room where we were accepted for once when it came to this, because we've been saying a lot of these things till we're blue in the face, and a lot of other folks there had the same thoughts, had the same ideas, had the same needs, and weren't allowed to say these things in these other meetings and weren't even invited. So as a result of that, there's been a lot of articles you've probably seen online, not just through the media, but there's also starting to put out videos, and I've actually set a meeting this week. Supervisor Sabatier and myself are going to speak with the Press Democrat, and there's other media agencies reaching out to us to talk more about this. So the FERC commenting period is going to be commencing in July, so right now we're really working on a campaign to get our voice out there. You know, as everybody knows now, since we brought it out into the public, our goal is to really slow it down and get people to get FERC and every other agency to look at it from our perspective, that we need a water source for not only people that have downstream, because I know people think, well, they're going to do a diversion. Why are you going to spend $1 billion to break down a dam and then spend another $1 billion to build another source for water, when you just have it right there, and you can spend half of that just adjusting it to a study that compromises for all? So that's like what we're trying to put out there to them, is like, look, let's sit down and talk about this in a more constructive manner, you know. So, you know, basically just trying to work to slow down the process, and you know, Huffman put out another letter, and he's always basically just like saying, well, you know, who's going to take it over? We've had these discussions, but the discussions aren't like he said. They were not inclusive. They were not outside of any other discussion topic of dam removal. If we talked about, you know, looking at maybe half dam removal or keeping the dam, then it wasn't accepted to be. It was if we were at the 2-basin solution and not being allowed, that was the way it was at this Cloverdale meeting. If someone would have said, no, we need to remove the dam, oh, you would have been in bad shape at that meeting. So, so it was really a good step. You know, people really thanked Lake County in general, like the citizens, the elected officials, everybody, for standing up and speaking out that, you know, they want this to happen. So it was really a good experience. Yeah. So that's going on with that. We had a workshop last month as well. A gentleman that came out from Mr. What's his name? Bendorf, Robert Bendorf. He actually bought our basket in the RCRC annual meeting, and he comes out here to do a couple of workshops with us to talk. Last year when we got Michael Green, or 2 years ago, he came and did like a not a strategic plan, but just getting us all not only on the same page, but how working with the supervisors, what your purview of the job is. So he did that before. This time was more of a restructure of how we're looking into the future with Vision 2028 and how we can adjust that to fit our goals now. Talk about different structures when it comes to leadership, as opposed to having a model where each director basically just reports to the board, having another filter and having a hybrid filter, whereas, because a lot of times it's hands off, right? Like a lot of complaints and a lot of issues that we have with directors in different departments is, why aren't you doing something, Supervisor Crandall? I can't go directly to that director, and I have to get to other supporters, right? So with the discussion we had, having a model where there is someone above them so we can give those, these complaints and these different concerns to them, so that director or whoever the CEO or CAO, it doesn't even have to be a CEO, could have that in place to have more results when it comes to this, because it's the only main time that we can really give proper direction is in an evaluation with the director, right? And so those are closed sessions. So so looking at different models that work for other counties small like ours, you're not trying to emulate a county that's not like ours, just discussions like that and topics like that. So yeah, that was a summary of what I have on it. But yeah.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Supervisor Crandall? We had a couple of questions there.
Can you enlighten us on?
Can you get sorry, Darnell, can you get the microphone, please?
Maybe.
Somebody get the microphone.
I'll give it
to Darnell.
Can you give us an update or the reasoning behind the increased fencing at the county jail, and also what the sheriff's department is planning to do, if anything, with the armory on their property or near adjoining property?
The fencing for the corrections, for the jail, I'm gonna have to find that out for you. But I do know that with the armory, they are starting to work actively on making it into the police department, or the sheriff's department, I'm sorry, the headquarters for the sheriff's department. So the goal is to move from Martin Street to the armory, and then that area where Martin Street is for the sheriff's department will now turn into another area where another county department can move to.
Tom Lasik. I was at the Big Valley Advisory Council last week, and Supervisors Pyska and Rasmussen were there, and Pyska mentioned the Sonoma Clean Power is on the agenda, I believe, for tomorrow. It's a community choice aggregate, which normally I'm pretty excited about, but what wasn't mentioned? And do you know if part of that consideration includes Sonoma Clean Power trying to put geothermal plants within Lake County? I know that was something they had talked about a few years ago, but at that time we weren't going to be part of the community or collective or whatever you call it. Do you know if that's something that is they still want to do, or do you have anything you can share on that? Thank you.
Right, I'm glad you mentioned that. They are on the agenda tomorrow to see if it's feasible for Lake County to join, also adding a possible seat to that aggregate. It doesn't necessarily lay out that, but I know we at Earth, some of the now Earth members, but then different citizens had mentioned and met with them at the Nylander Park office, and basically accentuated to them we don't want it near especially in this district, especially near the lake. And so that's definitely something that I will emphasize tomorrow, because we've told them that loud and clear before. And so from what I understand, this is just to discuss how feasible it is, because before it used to, not feasible it is for us to join Sonoma Clean Power to lower the bills for people in Lake County. How that looks, where they're gonna build, I don't know, but or if they're gonna build, right. And so, so that's, I asked the same question when I met with the CAO today. So whether that happens or not, that's just the basically direction tomorrow. There's no decision tomorrow. It's a direction to staff to say, yes, proceed with finding out how we can, move forward with being a part of that, or no. I think, yeah, so right now that's all it simply is. But at the same time, we don't want it near the lake, and as of right now, you can't have geothermal near our shorelines. So, yeah. What's that? Geothermal setback. Yes, the geothermal setback, yeah. Okay. So does that answer?
Yeah. Pretty much at a point where yeah, personally, I'm pretty much at a point, anything that lessens our dependence on PG&E, I'm usually in favor of, but there was no mention in the Big Valley about adding geothermal plants anywhere in the county. And then I found some history that said they wanted to do that in the past. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if that's, apparently it's not mentioned, at least as far as you're concerned about adding plants on this set of discussions.
No, I'm just really glad you mentioned it, because I wanted to emphasize as well that I will not support any type of, agreement with some agency like that that's not going to provide us any power or anything of the like. And if it's going to be a detriment to our people, in the area. So, as of right now, I've already told them, even the last time that we've talked with them, that, I'm not for, I wasn't for it then, so, well, how this looks, we'll see, but I'm not, yeah.
Margot Kambara. I'm glad to see that the Board of Supervisors is interested in continuous improvement, especially in the area of organizational structure. As you consider perhaps new models, please keep in mind that one of the main problems that the public has is that when we bring forward a complaint, that sounds so negative. If we bring up a concern, we bring up a concern, it goes into a black hole, and we don't hear about anything that happens about it. We hear nothing about resolution. So whether you stay with the CAO model, make that CAO stronger, or you go to a CEO model, I don't think just moving to a CEO model will do the trick. That system, that concern, complaint reporting system is broken, and that needs looking at separate from the organizational structure consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. No, that was the discussion. That doesn't mean it's happening. Doesn't mean it's not. There's always going to be a pivotal issue. So whether, like, hypothetically, yep, I think you and I have talked about this, Angela. Yep, there's now a CEO, and there's no silver bullet, and a lot of times boards will do that. They'll say, well, here's what we're going to do now, and then it ends up having, if not the same issues, different issues that are just as difficult to unwind. So, but does it, right now we already have issues with the black hole of complaints and black hole of concerns not being addressed. Does this become the same thing, So that's why what I liked about Mr. Bendorf is finding a way to always have both aspects, look at it how it's going to work for your board, look how it's going to work for your people as well. That's the biggest issue. We have this turnover rate where a group leaves, all of these issues keep stacking, a new group gets in, they start getting accustomed to it, exacerbated feelings about what's not happening, wear out, they leave again. So finding a way to start mitigating all of those and pumping some of these issues out is the key. And so I think I was glad to have that. I really excited to at least have the follow-up so we can get to an area of solution. I know too that with OpenGov, I know that's I think I mentioned it before, OpenGov is a new system in place that is for complaints when it comes to community development and for code enforcement. And you have to basically, it's just like the other in a way where you have to register, get on board, and fill in your complaints. It's going to work ideally, but the problem right now is just getting everybody accustomed to it first. And it's not user-friendly, right? And so like, again, here's the thing. Well, we have a silver bullet, OpenGov, and then now we're already finding out the quirks. But I think it's not too out of the question to have some sort of educational, have someone that really works well with it to show, how to work it better. But if you're having a hard time with it.
Yeah, and we got a tutorial. So. So we got a tutorial on how to use OpenGov from CDD. Oh, Angela, Emerald. So we did, they sent us a tutorial, and here's how you go through it. And even when you get in, it's hard to navigate and understand. It's not consistent between parcels, like complaints, and it's weird. I can send you screenshots of it. It's just not consistent, and there are some issues with it. But since I have the microphone, you guys were talking about a CAO-CEO hybrid as well, right. So you guys can do a hybrid.
Yes,
yeah.
That's why I was mentioning that you do. Yeah, no worries. That's why I was mentioning that you would have to tailor whatever it is to a hybrid model to what would fit for your people and for your, because like just doing a CEO is just a quick decision, and then you have to live through the decision you made. But like you said, having that split and even still kind of using the board as a stopgap to still evaluate and give input. Yeah. Because you were there.
I was there, yes. Just to go back about the Pillsbury, I want to know if you guys are aware that they just signed an agreement on Saturday at Lake Mendocino to raise Coyote Dam. So it makes no sense that we're going to take out Pillsbury and then raise Coyote to hold more water back in Lake Mendocino. So I just want to know if you guys were aware of that already.
No, it's just amazing that, each time, there's always another adjustment. But see, that's the thing. That's why I told some of the other elected officials, like they think I'm angry with them or whatever. And I'm like, look, I'm angry about the situation. I'm not happy with PG&E. We're all not happy with that. I understand. I can't say that if I was a supervisor in Mendocino County or in Sonoma County or Humboldt County or if I was a council member for Round Valley, I wouldn't be trying to do what they're doing. I can't say that. I can only respect that that's their jurisdiction. But at the same time, I don't appreciate that not only is PG&E, using this tactic to try and say, here's what we'll give you, here's what we'll give you, and then still not really even, when they speak to us, we're ready to talk, but then when we talk to them, they don't give us any type of confirmation or any type of, thought that we're going to get, anything we're asking for. And so that's what gets, and then not to mention Huffman and just his continuous, dismissing whatever, our concerns are, trying to gaslight and say that we're being political or whatever the case may be. And it's basically just us saying, look, you're going to take something from us. You're saying it's going to happen. Then how are you going to make sure Lake County gets, yeah. And so then they try to use the whole thing. Well, this is the actual tribal land. It's like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, what we're going to, you're going to mitigate our economic impact, how you're going to mitigate, the people that live there, and then with the fires. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And so luckily, one of the other things too is I've been reaching out to the fire departments locally. So I got a couple of the fire chiefs that are willing to write a couple letters that were involved with that fire in 2018 and others before, and how that Lake Pillsbury played such a vital role in not only just the complex, most recently, because I know there's probably been more, Jim, you might know as well. Of course you know, but, and then also the August complex, right?
And you saw the letters of support for the farm bureaus.
Yes, and that was, yes, farm bureaus. So those are the ones that I'm like, yes, okay, I seen it, but the other ones, it's just, to me, it's just Huffman and the rest of the group just, here's how we can make everyone else feel like they're getting something out of it,
Thomas Aceves, chairman for the Western Region Town Hall. Good evening, everyone. A few comments and questions on everything that's been said. Great job on advocating for, I saw the Pillsbury project because that was also covered in the Chronicle. And it's always good to get that exposure. I think that, are they raising the dam because they want to hold more water because they're not going to have the flow they usually have coming in? That's what they're anticipating.
To secure continued diversions to Marin and Sonoma County.
Right, they're going to want to build a pipeline.
Mendocino
Yep.
Reservoir water flows to Sonoma County.
Yep.
I'm sorry, comment again?
Lake Mendocino Reservoir water flows via the current Eel Russian River Diversion Project and the way it's currently signed without the dam at Scott. So the diversions will continue to Sonoma, and from there, they're actually still sold further to Marin.
Okay.
A 13-mile pipeline.
Right. I did go a different subject matter, changing over to the sheriff's. I did go out there yesterday or over the weekend on my bicycle to look at it. I don't know, it's a multi-million-dollar project, $5 million or something like that. And they are working on the armory to convert it to the new headquarters. I'm just hoping, I know this is a long time coming, I'm just hoping any money we give into these projects, that it'll improve the facility and improve the outcomes of the sheriff's department, other than making just new technology and so forth. That's just a comment on that. Outcomes is everything, and that's what we need. And hopefully that's going to have better outcomes from the sheriff. The next comment I have is, well, I wanted to talk about universal trash collection, but just one comment about the pleas on the CEO, CAO, or I know you guys are going to be looking at that in the future. Again, the outcomes have to be there. I mean, you want to, hopefully compare it to other smaller areas that have a CEO. I think they have one in Mendocino County.
They do.
Of course, this might not have to do anything, but they're also being investigated by the state right now, their auditor. So they're being investigated or audited by the state for the next 6 months or so. I'm not saying that has anything to do with the CEO, but the outcomes is so big. Is if we're going to pay someone over $100,000 to come into our department and run the show, we need to make sure that, like Margot said, the outcomes are going to be better. I think one issue with the organization and dealing with some issues in our area is everybody's in the silos at the county. You know what I mean? They just don't talk to each other. We were dealing with an issue at Pile Road, and Dave Hendricks, who lives out there, was talking to air quality, and they just don't have any crossover. There's no discussion with the other departments. I think there should be. Anyway, and then finalize the universal trash collection. Would that have to be, and that's something, would that have to be an ordinance voted at least 3 of you, 3 supervisors, correct? Okay. To get it started, okay, great. That's it, that's all. Thank you.
No, but I'm glad you mentioned the armory, because it made me think of something that I know the sheriff had said, and maybe that would be someone we got to put on the list too, because he's mentioned in different areas, and I'm trying to remember where he was. Maybe it was in front of us, but he wants to look back into having basically like stations. And it's one thing that I brought up to Sheriff Martin, because I mean, I'm like, Sheriff Martin, we were in the Army. You know that when we get deployed somewhere, it's always best to have someone in that area. It's always best to have a station so that someone can actually go to the area where it's at. For some reason, I don't know if it was, whatever it was, it didn't happen. But I know Luke, Sheriff Bingham, he wants to develop and bring that model back. So I really love that, because it has one station here, and rather than waiting for someone to come all the way from Lakeport or vice versa, you have someone in this area to do that. So I know that's one thing you talked about. It doesn't have anything to do with the armory, but it just made me think of that when you mentioned it. So I do know that the armory has been something that when I got on, it was just an empty building. I know that there was McGuire had helped, and so did Congressman Thompson, to get that into the county, land swap basically. So, and then you mentioned universal. Yes, universal garbage. There was an old draft ordinance as well. So I'm just hoping that when Lars comes, he can explain his goal to how he's going to do the pilot, because I'm hoping that we can get to the point where we're doing that. Because I mean, we're not going to be able to continue. I mean, I love doing the garbage days; those are wonderful. but you know, that's not gonna solve the problem. It's just, for me, that is just something we're doing now until we can get it, you know, until we can get code enforcement. Code enforcement's full, by the way. I know that when we were at that trash day, the department, Marcus and the rest were talking to us about how the department's gonna be, it is full right now, so they're training folks, yeah.
The grant money, who was the one that initiated that? Was it Shannon, or do you know who actually got the grant money?
Shannon from Community.
Okay, great job for her. We'll champion the great things that happen in our community. But
That's because of Dave and you all.
yeah, so we should try to, I would suggest getting the grant once a year. Try to, at least, if that's coming from the recycle grant, which is not fed. And we can have dump days every year. You know, I would, hopefully they're gonna pursue that. And hopefully it's not just a, you know, because we do need the dump days here every year in all the sections. Because we can't just, you know, it needs to happen, because it works. Look at the results.
Well,
It's amazing, amazing.
150 tons. We did 60 tons just for the year and a half that we did for Lucerne. This was just in 2, and that was 3.
That's an outcome.
And so at the meeting that we had, I know that you struggled because you were on Zoom, but they had met, you remember that, but you were there and you heard a lot of it. And they mentioned how once this grant commences, this is going to give them the tools to have the capability to write for another one. So that is the goal, but we just got to keep our foot on the pedal to make sure they do it, right? Yeah.
Has there ever been any discussion about a possibility for a transfer station, a small transfer station on this side of the lake? Yeah, because there's the one in Lakeport, the transfer station, and the landfill all the way in the city of Clear Lake. But even the transfer station in Lakeport it's not huge, but it's enough where people can go and dump into dumpsters. Is that have you guys ever researched looking into that?
I don't know of any being done, but it sounds like something that we should do. So.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
Yeah, right. That's also why people are dumping from this area, because it is a long drive, and plus there's other reasons, but that I'm sure that plays a big part. So when we talk about the universal garbage with Lars, this could be probably another discussion. This could be another discussion to have to add to it and see where it would be ideal and what to do.
Anybody else have anything for Supervisor Crandall? Anybody online?
There was also one real quick thing too that I thought of when you mentioned Pile Road is the paper parcels, the paper parcel. So as you all know, those have been issues for decades. And you know, the goal, I guess, back in the 20s or the 30s or whatever, was to sell people properties from the Bay Area, and they'd move up and they'd have to basically pay for their roads and their, you know, infrastructure. And so a lot of these properties, as you know, are years after years tax defaulted. And so when we do tax defaulted sales in the last, I want to say pre-Patrick, you know, pre-tax collector Patrick, he gets upset when I call him tax collector instead of treasurer, but pre him, they just put everything on, and that was that. And so you're not even collecting anything for those because nobody's buying those parcels. We gave the direction to Patrick and to Genevieve to put together an ordinance for these low value properties so that we can finally get them to a point to where we're not even having to try to collect on them, because all that's happening is each year the value expands, but there's no value in the property and no one's ever going to pay for it. And even if so it's just basically it's not only a waste of our resources to even work with them, but it's just not something you can collect on. So so they're working to get that taken care of so that we can move forward. I know that was really glad to hear Brad is working with me, going to work with me on the plan for these paper subdivisions. There was a plan put together back in 2015, 2014. Holly and Chuck, Holly's not here, but her and Chuck worked on that back then. And so it doesn't seem like it's too much out of the question to just use that, but then also enhance it for now. And then there's also some more discussions about what to do with that property, because a lot of those properties can be used for like nonprofits when it comes to like green belts, or, you know, if you have a nonprofit or a government or an agency or something of the like, it can be either a sealed bid or it could even be donated, so that way, but then they would have to take care of it, you know, so that's where all of this will be addressed in the ordinance. But I bring that up because that's the place where people dump. It's the place where people will squat. It's all of that, right? And so with the Lake County Recreation Agency, the goal there, you remember probably last time I talked about it in one of the meetings, was they wanted to have a pool or a recreation center in Clear Lake or Lakeport, which was very difficult for me to have a discussion about, because we can't, our constituents, how are they going to get there? Our kids, you know, our families. And they were talking about enhancing our parks, and we can't even enjoy our parks because of the RVs and whatnot. So, but moving further, they're looking into trails and things like that. And I know that's another thing that is being worked on, because if we can connect trails, that's another way to, you know, not only for ecotourism, but to utilize these properties where people can go and travel on. So, not travel on, but just, you know, hike on and whatnot. So.
All right. Anybody else? All right, thank you for the update. Item number 10, public comment. A citizen has up to 3 minutes to provide input on any item not appearing on the agenda. These items can often be further discussed on a future agenda item, or as a future agenda, if the Surf Council agrees to add it for a future item. Anybody have any public comments? Dan?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I don't know if it has anything to do with the dredging, but our Lucerne Harbor parking lot has been packed with boat trailers lately, and it's really good to see that happening here again.
Yes.
Started with Dan's letter in 2017.
Are you over there charging them?
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I don't know if this or for the announcement.
Well, we could move to announcements if you have an announcement.
Okay. Yeah, everybody knows I'm with the Senior Center here. And as always, on our desk over there is the lunch agenda, the lunch menu for the month. And it also has the activities and the days and the times on it also. And there's also paper over there that has all of the food distributions for the whole county for the whole month. If you know of anybody who needs food or whatever, just grab one of those. And I actually want to introduce our new executive director, Dolores Farrell. She retired, and she did a great job setting a foundation for us here, because we were just building back from being down in the dumps, and she did a great job. And so here's our new executive director.
Thank you, Charlie. My name is Amanda Gonzalez. I'm a local realtor, and I also just recently was brought on as the executive director of Lucerne Senior Center. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, I'm usually in that office over there, Monday through Friday till about 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Welcome.
One of the things too, the Older Americans Act is reauthorized, I think, once every year and whatnot. There was an issue with it recently. They were worried that it wasn't going to get reauthorized, and as of now, it's at least extended until like September, October timeframe. So the funding to the centers, you know, are still okay. You know, there's a lot of issues when it comes to that, but I know with Area Agency on Aging, I'm on that with Supervisor Paiska. And a couple of the staff members had to move to different departments because of some of the specific, you know, cuts and whatnot. But at the same time, it's still in place. We're still working to try and adjust. So we've also sent some letters to DC and some letters to our representatives to ensure that we can still have funding for our seniors.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
And don't forget, Wednesday this week is the Western Region Town Hall. If you'd like to come and learn more about Nice and Upper Lake issues going on and concerns and things we're happy about, come on over. It's 5:30 at the Tribal Hall on Main Street on Wednesday. We'd love to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other announcements? Nobody online?
Did you guys introduce Jacob?
We did.
Oh.
Yes. I mean,
But
he's
he's
not
online.
able to speak. Yes.
He's on Zoom.
Yeah. So, he was unable to.
Make sure to come to the meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier to come in person than Zoom
Right.
due to our
It makes sense. He's on.
slow internet. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending.
Sure.
Yep. Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Did we say adjourn?
Yeah. I think.
I had to do this with Upperlake.
Yeah. I think maybe.